No Plan A. It is quite a stage. It is the first advent to be released ever, and yet after years and years of different changes and different new metas and power creeps and all that stuff, the main recommended strategy for the stage has pretty much remained the same. There are quite a few changes you can do to make the strategy easier, or some slightly alternative strategies, but for the most part the recommended strategy has been pretty much the exact same, and there has yet to be any non-Uber or non-Legend units that just straight out completely destroys the stage. Now, let's get to the stage overview first before I move on to the lineup. First, I want to talk about One Cycle Awakened Bahamut strategy. It is the recommended strategy that are usually used by everyone. If you know about that strategy is basically what I'm going to use, except with a little extra steps. The One Cycle Awakened Bahamut strategy, however, usually can only work if you have good units that are able to chip down Clionel. Good rusher units, good tanker units, something that can chip down Clionel fast enough that you're able to kill it before other troublesome peons starts to appear in the stage. However, if you don't have good enough rushers or good enough tankers or whatever to kill Clionel fast enough, then you could try this one instead. Instead of using one cycle of Awakened Bahamut, this uses 2 cycles. And that's what I'm going to cover for this plan. Do note that if your unit levels are good, or if you have good enough rushers or good enough tankers or whatever to kill Clionel, try to go for the 1 cycle first, because the 2 cycle are essentially just the 1 cycle except with extra steps. Now let's move on to the lineup explanation. First of all, the cannon that you will be using is the basic cannon. I have not seen any other usage of custom cannons that works as well as basic cannon here. And another note is that while I'm using Mr. here in this lineup, if you do have Crazed Cow or Manic Lion at a decent enough level, please use that instead. I'm only using this because my Crazed Cow is a little bit high level. The first 3 units in the lineup, Little Cat, Catasaurus, and Dragon Cat, or Lizard Cat in this case, are for combos. Little Cat and Catasaurus is for Minisaurus, which is a research combo that you can use to help spamming your Artist and Crazed Cows. While Catasaurus and Dragon is a Age of Dinosaurs combo, which is a cat-based defense up, which you'll see in a bit on why I use this. Dragon Cat will actually be used on the strategy, however his level will not matter that much. It will slightly help to have him at a high enough level, but even if your Dragon Cat's not at a high level, it won't be the death of you. It's fine. Artist, Crazed Legs, Crazed Cow, or well in this case is Hyper Mister and Awakened Bahamut in this lineup is the main core units for the rushdown, and the other units are basically just anything that can clear angelic gory waves. You'll see how they work later. This can be subbed with Ubers or anything basically that is able to deal with angelic gories. Now, let's begin with the strategy. I should probably note that once again, this 2 cycle Awakened Bahamut is essentially 1 cycle with extra steps, which means that if you know about the 1 cycle Awakened Bahamut strategy and know how to pull off the beginning, then you pretty much know about 80% of what to do already. But I'm going to repeat what the 1 cycle rushdown is like anyways. Now right as you enter the stage, you immediately want to spawn your fast unit like Crazed Cow or Manic Lion or Hyper Mister or Maglev, preferably Maglev if you have him, to stall Clionel right at the base. After a while, Slipnir will come out, and don't try to stall anything, just let them close into your base. You basically want to lure here. Do note that whatever it is that you use to stall Clionel at the beginning can actually matter a lot in the rushdown later, because it can determine the position between Clionel and Slipnir later on, which will be vital. They can be too close or too far sometimes, which can mess up your rushdown, but we'll get to it a little bit later. It can really depend on what unit you're using and what level they are. After a while, Angelic Gory will appear, and this is when you basically want to start to do your rushdown when Angelic Gory starts to get near your base. Use Awakened Bahamut to kill down the Angelic Gory, Artist for Meat Shield, Crazed Legs, and Crazed Cow to clear off the blocker so that Awakened Bahamut can get a clean shot. Remember that the main goal is to get Awakened Bahamut inside Clionel's blind spot. That's the most important unit that you want to have to be alive inside Clionel's blind spot. Generally, the most consistent way to get this done is to get Slipnir to be damage knocked back inside Clionel's blind spot and then kill Slipnir inside Clionel's blind spot. Basic Cannon is going to be very important to be able to cancel Clionel's attack animation, and as much as possible try to delay the cannon to maximize the amount of time you can get to get Awakened Bahamut inside the blind spot. Do note that this thing is basically the most important part of the rushdown, and that can be heavily determined by the initial positioning of the 2 enemies. This is basically what I meant earlier when I was talking that the initial unit that you use to stall Clionel can actually matter in the end, because sometimes if Slipnir and Clionel are too far from each other, On the rushdown, Slipnir might not be knocked back far enough to get inside Clionel's blind spot, and if they are too close, Clionel might end up attacking first before you get the chance to knock Slipnir back. If you fail during this, try to consider changing or doing something in the beginning phase a little bit on the next run. If the enemies are too close, for example, maybe spawning more units at the very beginning to make Clionel getting stalled more can help separate them further. Or maybe if they are too far, spawning units when Slipnir is already about in the middle of the stage to stall Slipnir for a little bit without triggering Clionel's attack can get them a little bit closer together. This is just an example. You can try to find your own way to get your ideal positioning. Now with that phase done, this is basically the rest of the rushdown. Keep spawning Artist and Crazed Cow and try to get literally anything that you can get inside Clionel's blind spot in to help deal damage against Clionel, whether it's a rusher or a tanker or both. Extra points if whatever units you use can also clear off the blockers behind Clionel, for example, Medalist Cat, because the blocker can sometimes ruin your run by messing with your melee attackers as well as even possibly blocking Awakened Bahamut between Clionel's knockback count. If whatever units you use to rush down Clionel are strong enough, this is actually where you win. You can pretty much kill Clionel before the second Slipnir blocks your way, but if that's not the case, then prepare to lure again. Do note that Clionel has 4 knockback counts. If you can't kill Clionel fast enough and Slipnir is blocking your way or Slipnir is killing your units, then you should stop spawning anything and try to lure once the next wave of Angelic Gories are out. Lure these 2 Angelic Gories near your base and then kill them as fast as possible with the rest of the units that you bring to kill the Angelic Gories. Once you've dealt with the Angelic Gories, you are able to do what essentially is the exact same thing as the first rushdown, though the situation might be a little bit more not so ideal. You probably want to improvise on what to do, because sometimes, for example, Awakened Bahamut might not be off cooldown, or maybe Slipnir is too far away from Clionel, or Slipnir is too close from Clionel. Just basically try to do anything to either get rid of Slipnir or to get rid of Clionel, or to just keep Awakened Bahamut inside of Clionel's range. Just do anything that you think will kill Clionel, really. Do note that at this phase, Clionel will most likely be hitting your cat base, which is pretty much why I'm bringing cat base defensive combo. My base has level 10 construction health, so I don't actually really fear Clionel killing my base that much, but I know a lot of you probably won't have max level on this, so it might be a good idea to bring a cat base defense combo. If you fail because your Awakened Bahamut is still on cooldown, then the next run try to spawn Awakened Bahamut earlier during the initial rushdown, and maybe that can help. That's really about it for the strategy. If you manage to pull it off, then it's your victory, really. It's, again, basically just an extension of the 1 cycle Awakened Bahamut. It's even possible that if you're bringing such a good rusher unit to be going into the stage thinking you're going to do the 2 cycle but ended up winning with 1 cycle, it's definitely possible if your rusher units are strong. This strategy is also basically what at least I use for a New Testament, which is the Clionel's Wrath stage, except I'm using a little bit more advanced units. That stage you are limited by 5 cat limit. This stage you're basically just limited by your own cats, really. That's really about all that I can say about this level. I think it's a fun stage, honestly. I kind of like No Plan A. It was such a hype stage on release, and it's still kind of... The fact that it still holds up now, despite all the power creeps, is actually pretty insane. I like it. I like it a lot. That's really about it. I hope this helps if your rusher units aren't really that strong, or maybe you realize that your rusher units are strong enough to do 1 cycle. But yeah, that's about it. Also, Minisaurus once again gets into my strategy. Yeah, see ya.